What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Pete Freezy Bowling channel. Today we're going to be doing a little arsenal build, and we're going to be talking about building the perfect and proper bag for a tournament arsenal. As always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the sub button, the notification bell. Now let's talk about tournament bowling and how to build a proper tournament arsenal. Alright guys, so like we said in the intro, today we're going to be building a tournament arsenal. I've got a big tournament here coming up this weekend over at Doug Kent's Rose Bowl Lanes. Really big tournament, really hard and challenging tournament. So we're going to be going over how to build a bag for tournament arsenal, talking about what the proper balls you guys might need are, how they differ from maybe say your house shot bags, and just how to kind of fill the gaps and help round out a bag to be able to throw proper scores. So first things first, when we're talking about bowling in a tournament bowling is much different from league bowling, and most of you guys know the patterns are way more challenging, way harder. Typically when you bowl in a tournament, we typically bowl on what we call flatter patterns, where we're bowling on our typical league shots, we will have a lot of oil in the middle part of the lane and then a lot of dry towards the outside boards. That way, when you're bowling league, if you miss in, you got the oil in the middle to give you some hold, and then you miss right or left, depending on if you're right or left-handed. If you miss outside, you got those dry boards to help get the ball to hook back to the pocket. So typically that's an easier pattern to be able to bowl on. Some of you will agree it's probably not all that easy though. Tournament patterns are typically the exact opposite, really, no matter if they're long, short, medium. They're the exact opposite from your house shots. Typically, with a tournament pattern, it's going to be much flatter. It's going to be a flatter ratio. So the oil to oil from each board is laid out completely different. And typically, like we said, it's flatter. So we'll have, most patterns will have next to no hold in the middle part of the lane. And then a lot of them will be actually a little bit more slick and oily on the outside part of the lanes. That's where that ratio comes into play. So then our miss room, if we miss right or left, is a lot more marginal. You have less miss room if you miss in to get the ball to hold on line, and you have less miss room right or left to be able to get the ball back to the pocket. So typically we want to look for more controlled pieces, because again, most sport shot patterns play really flat. So we want a ball that's going to typically pick up a little bit sooner and be more controlled, because again, the pattern being flat, if you miss left, if you're a right-hander, the ball's going to go sideways on you. It's going to be very hard to control sometimes. So we want bowling balls that are going to be nice and controlled and help you control the pocket and control the head pin. So first we're going to start off with talking about bowling on the fresh. Bowling on the fresh obviously just means that we're bowling on that first game of oil. It hasn't been touched yet, it hasn't been bowled on yet, so the pattern is fresh. So when we're talking about balls for the fresh, typically the go-to is to have a big tank of a bowling ball, especially if you're bowling on a heavier volume pattern. That's one thing to pay attention when you guys are bowling tournaments, what the volume of the pattern is. Like I said earlier, the ratio of the pattern, that helps you to determine how flat the pattern is. So again, when we're bowling on a little bit more of a heavier pattern or a flatter ratio pattern, we're going to be talking about the fresh. These bowling balls for me give me my best looks for the fresh. So to go over the balls for the fresh, we're going to talk about these are my go-to balls for the fresh here. These are my tanks, my big ASIM solids. So we got my 900 Global Reality here and my Rotogrip Gem. So like we said, when we're talking about bowling on the fresh, these are the balls that I'm going to initially kind of go to typically, especially more so depending on the pattern, like I said. So for this tournament I got coming up, I know what the pattern is I'm bowling on. So it's not long, it's 43 feet. So it's kind of like that medium to long range, but more likely it's going to play pretty flat. I'm not going to have a lot of miss room right or left. So for the fresh, these two guys right here will probably be my go-to bowling balls here. Now if we're talking about building if you guys are looking for more of just like a 6-ball arsenal, You could probably go with one or the other. One could kind of interchange with the other one. That way you don't have to have both in the bag. For me, I have these balls slightly just a little bit different enough to where I feel like I can take both of them with me. I feel like my gem's just a little bit stronger than my reality is. I think my reality is just a little bit touch weaker, a little touch cleaner than my gems. So depending on what I see out on the lanes, they're just a little bit different enough where I feel like they can fill a spot in my bag to where I can bring them both. So to go over a little bit of I wanted to be able to film this video for you guys where I threw every ball at the same time, but by the time I'm filming this video, today's Thursday. My tournament's in 2 days on Saturday, so I've been kind of dealing with a little bit of knee pain, so I'm trying to rest up my knee. So I didn't get to practice today, but I think I should have enough group of older shots to where I can kind of show you guys a couple shots at least, just to give you guys some looks of each ball that I'm going to talk about here. Before we move on, that was our first initial look at some fresh bowling balls I would throw on the fresh for a tournament. Again, those two guys will probably be some of the main balls I'll throw on the fresh here in this tournament I got coming up. And again, really any other tournament, depending on what the lane pattern is, how the lane's going to play, those will be my go-to big tanks that I will throw on the fresh. Now, before I move on, I got one other ball that I should include on the fresh. This is an option that a lot of people nowadays, especially for tournaments, really lean to and go for it. So also to include as your main fresh bowling balls, we've got to talk about urethane. Now, I know there's going to be some of you in the comments, Pete, UC3 isn't really a urethane ball. For me, it is. It's a pearlized urethane cover. It's got an ASIM core. For me, I don't gel typically well with traditional urethane. That's why I like my UC3. It gives me that urethane look for my game to be able to kind of do what urethane is meant to do. So it's close enough to urethane. For me, it's urethane. If you're going in a tournament nowadays, guys, whether you like it or not, it kind of seems like you've got to have urethane in the bag to be able to compete. And common bowling misconception, I'll probably do a video about this here in the future too. Urethane is not meant for light oil. It is not meant for dry, well, I shouldn't say light oil. Urethane is not meant for dry, burned oil conditions. Urethane is really strong. It's meant to hook really early. It's meant to be smooth and controllable. So when we say that, it's meant to be smooth, it's meant to be early. It's meant to throw typically more so on the fresh and on heavier, high volume conditions. You see all the guys out on tour using it. They're not using it because the lanes are super burned up. They're using it because it's controllable. They can control the pocket, and typically they all use it on the fresh, because the fresh typically is when the pattern, a sport pattern, is going to be most kind of over under or more unpredictable. So they want something that they can control and that they can get to the pocket with ease, especially with all their hands and rev rates. So again, for me, the UC3, that's a ball that I'll probably typically throw on the fresh on a sport condition. I've got some clips from when I was practicing from nationals with it. These clips are on a sport shot. I was practicing for nationals. It's an old nationals pattern, and it gave me a really good look both then and when I actually went to nationals. I threw it on the fresh. So urethane, something you gotta have, guys, when you're bowling a tournament. Alright guys, so that kind of wraps up the balls for the fresh. So now we're starting to see a little bit of transition in the tournament, let's say. We're starting to see our tanks start to overhook from where they originally are. We're moving left, we're chasing left, but now we start to see the balls start to bail and knock it around the corner. You might be leaving your flat 10s, your 2 pins, your 2 10s if the ball's not getting there. So that's typically the situation as you're starting to get left and you're starting to see the balls kind of start to puke on you, start to bail on you. That's when it's kind of time to start thinking about making a ball change. So getting into those kind of first transitional pieces, for me, some of my favorite transitional pieces are going to include balls like these guys right here, my 900 Global Eternity, my Rotogrip RST X1. My X1 might typically be a ball that I could actually still throw on the fresh. Actually, really, either of these balls are, depending on the condition. I actually probably even could use the Eternity on the fresh here this coming tournament. We're bowling on, again, we're up at Doug's center. It's a really old wood lane center, so there's kind of naturally a lot of friction in the because of the wood lanes, but again, we'll kind of see what happens. But again, as I'm kind of maybe getting away from my urethane or from my big ASIM tanks, balls like these are going to be balls I'm going to go to. Balls that are just a touch cleaner. They're going to start to get through the fronts a little bit easier. They're going to have a little bit more energy as they come off the pattern compared to the tanks. That way, they have a little bit of extra energy as I'm getting further left. Will help the ball pick up and go through the pins a little bit harder. They won't want to bail on me as much. But they're still big tanks in their own right because of their cores and because of their strength and covers. They're just that kind of little bit of a step down and just a touch cleaner from the really big guys. So again, we're going to throw some shots. I think I have a couple tournament shots here with the X1. I'm not sure. The Eternity, I'll show you some clips from when I've been practicing with it. So those were kind of my first step down transitional pieces as I'm starting to get into some transition, say at the tournament. So now we're getting quite a few games in. We're probably talking maybe, let's say we're getting in games maybe 4, 5, 6. maybe 7 and 8, depending on the blocks. I know for this tournament, there's a chance I could easily bowl at least 8 games back to back. So again, I'm getting into those later games. I'm going to start needing some stuff that's a lot cleaner, but still kind of fairly controllable. We got to talk about our burn balls. So again, these are the balls that we're going to get into say games 6, 7, 8. The lanes are starting to get really fried. We really need something that's pretty clean and kind of really can handle some open angles. But again, I'm bowling on I know what pattern I'm bowling on. It's a 43-foot pattern. Might be kind of heavy volume, so I still might need something that's going to be, say, pretty big and still pretty aggressive. But again, we'll be nice and clean and be able to handle open angles. So for my burn balls, I'm probably going to look for 2 balls, probably something kind of like this. I've got my Storm Phase 5 and my Storm Absolute. Now, the Absolute, again, that's a ball that I haven't necessarily really liked over the past couple months since I got it, or past month since I got it. But I've been kind of finding a little bit more to see where it fits in my bag. It looks like a really good transition and possible burn piece. I've been throwing in a lot of practice sessions where I get a lot of shots out, and it kind of starts to look to come to life as I get going with it. So I'm going to give it a chance here at the tournament. It's going to come in the bag with me. That might be a ball that I would probably go to maybe after, say, like my Eternity, because it's still a really big, really strong ball, big, strong core, but it's got that really weak cover. So I'm thinking and I'm hoping that that really weak cover could really shine as I'm kind of starting to chase the lane left and the lane's starting to get pretty burned out. It could be nice and clean, but since it's so weak, it could still be nice and controllable. So I'm going to take that with me, and we'll see what happens with it. And then I got my trusty Phase 5. That's my symmetric pearl piece. It's going to probably be my ultimately really burn ball as I'm into maybe game 7 and 8 if I get to that point. I'm probably going to get pretty far left with it if I need to. Open up my angle a little bit if I need to. And that'll give me my really clean, kind of weaker option for what the burn will give me. So those are my burn pieces. All right, guys, so I feel like we kind of covered a lot of the spectrums right there. We covered a bit of the fresh. We covered our first transition pieces. We covered our burn pieces. We covered our urethane piece, which also could be on the fresh. I feel like there's one other piece that we kind of could talk about and go over that's definitely going to come with me. I feel like everybody's in their bag, depending on, no, not even depending, even depending whatever brand you throw. I feel like everybody should kind of have a low RG, low diff piece. So me saying that, we know we gotta bring one of Storm's GOATs, the IQ Tour Solid. It's just that very unique piece in motion. Again, low RG, low diff. So we got a low RG, which gives us Pretty strong, pretty early rolling core, but we got the low differential, which helps the ball flow. It kind of cuts down on the flare of the ball, and it just kind of helps get the ball a little bit further down the lane. That low diff just kind of helps get the ball a little bit further down the lane, doesn't want to get offline super quick. And that's really our ultimate control piece. But because of how unique it is and how control it is and just how unique the numbers are, it's kind of that ball that you can really throw on anything. I could throw it on the fresh if it allows me to it. I could throw it as kind of like a first transition piece. I could throw it on the burn because it's kind of weak enough because of the low diff. It's really just a go-to all around versatile tournament piece. So we all know we got to bring a goat like this with us. All right, you guys, so that pretty much covers our total needs and gaps for the bag here for the Arsenal build. I hope this video was informational for you guys. I hope it helps you guys kind of get an idea about what you kind of want to fill out for your bag if you're ever bowling in a tournament. And again, a lot of this stuff is kind of interchangeable. There's other balls that you could swap out for a lot of these balls, but for me and for what I have and for my game, these are the guys that kind of, I think, give me the best gap fillers and give me the best kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 punches in my bag if I'm ever bowling in a tournament. So again, guys, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button, the sub button, the notification bell. Go hit the comments if this was helpful for you guys. Leave me some love down in the comments. Again, I got the tournament coming up, so wish me some luck. Hopefully we can have a good turnout. Hopefully we can put up some good scores, make a cut, maybe make a little bit of money. And again, guys, I thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope this helps. I hope this was informational for you guys. Again, this is my take here. You guys can take what I say with a grain of salt, but I feel like that kind of gave a really good idea and a really good interpretation on how to kind of properly fill out a tournament bag. So as always, guys, Pete here. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.